Charlie Kirk's parents' push for DNA test after leaked tape expose Erika for cheating with ex. Stop everything. Because this story didn't just break. It ripped straight through the internet like a live wire. What was once whispered behind closed doors has allegedly exploded into a full-blown scandal involving leaked audio, shattered trust, and a family demand so extreme it's left even hardened insiders stunned. Charlie Kirk's name is suddenly everywhere, not because of politics, not because of speeches, but because of a private betrayal that may have detonated his entire personal life. According to claims lighting up social media, a leaked tape has surfaced that insiders say exposes Erika in a secret relationship with an ex she supposedly cut off long before marriage. The audio is being described as raw, emotional, and chillingly specific, with details that allegedly line up a little too perfectly with dates Charlie himself once questioned. And that's where the story takes a turn no one saw coming. Sources claim Charlie's parents didn't just listen and move on. They allegedly stopped everything and pushed for one thing that changed the stakes overnight: a DNA test. Not as a rumor. Not as a threat. As a demand. Because once the tape circulated in private circles, the questions stopped being about cheating and started being about timelines, truth, and whether everything they were told was carefully constructed. The internet went feral. Old photos resurfaced. Deleted interviews were dissected. Screenshots flew. Hashtags split fandoms down the middle. Some say this is a calculated smear. Others say the pieces finally fit. But insiders insist this leak was no accident, and it wasn't meant to stay small. Because if the tape is real, and if the family follows through, what comes next won't just be embarrassing. It will be irreversible. The moment the leaked tape started circulating in private group chats, the energy around Charlie Kirk's personal life shifted from curiosity to panic. This wasn't a vague rumor or a blurry screenshot. This was audio. Clear enough to recognize tone. Specific enough to suggest memory. And devastating enough that people who heard it first didn't even want to be the ones to pass it along. According to insiders, the tape allegedly captured Erika in a candid conversation with a man she once insisted was completely out of her life. An ex. Not a stranger. Not a coincidence. Someone whose name Charlie had already clocked in his own mind long before anyone else ever said it out loud. What made the tape so explosive wasn't just what was said. It was when it was said. Sources claim the conversation referenced moments that overlapped with milestones Erika publicly described as sacred. Engagement periods. Quiet seasons. Times she claimed were untouched by past relationships. The words didn't sound rehearsed. They sounded comfortable. Familiar. Like two people who never really stopped knowing each other. And once that realization hit, everything else started collapsing behind it. Charlie, according to people close to him, didn't hear about the tape from the internet. He heard about it from family. Specifically, his parents. They were allegedly the first ones alerted after someone in their extended circle flagged the audio as concerning. At first, the reaction wasn't rage. It was silence. The kind of silence that comes when a suspicion you've been carrying suddenly finds a voice. Insiders say Charlie listened to the tape once, didn't say a word, and left the room. That's when the questions started pouring out. Not accusations. Questions. About dates. About places. About why certain gaps in Erika's story never quite lined up. Charlie had always noticed the inconsistencies, but he'd brushed them aside as harmless. Now, those same inconsistencies felt deliberate. Strategic. Designed to control a narrative rather than tell a truth. Social media didn't know any of this yet, but it felt it coming. Old clips of Erika started resurfacing organically, as if the internet sensed blood in the water. Interviews where she emphasized discipline. Panels where she described herself as untouched by modern dating culture. Quotes where she framed her past as clean, simple, and linear. In isolation, they sounded aspirational. Against the tape, they sounded rehearsed. Then came the first wave of so-called insider leaks. Anonymous accounts claiming Erika had been spotted with the same ex at conferences, hotels, and political events years after she said that chapter was closed. One claim mentioned a lobby encounter. Another referenced a late-night drink that wasn't supposed to happen. None of it confirmed. All of it believable enough to keep spreading. Fans began pulling photos, zooming in on backgrounds, comparing outfits across years. It turned into a full-blown investigation, conducted by strangers with nothing but time and Wi-Fi. Behind the scenes, Charlie's parents allegedly stopped playing neutral. According to people familiar with the family dynamic, they'd always been protective, but now they were alarmed. The tape didn't just suggest infidelity. It suggested a pattern of omission. And when children are involved, omission becomes unacceptable. That's when the conversation allegedly shifted from "did this happen?" to "what else don't we know?" The demand for a DNA test didn't come out of nowhere. Insiders claim it was the result of months of quiet discomfort, now inflamed by the tape. Certain dates never sat right. Certain timelines felt rushed. And now, with evidence suggesting overlapping relationships, the family reportedly decided that trust alone was no longer enough. The request wasn't public. It was private. Direct. And according to sources, it landed like a bomb. Erika, insiders say, was blindsided. Not because of the request itself, but because of who it came from. This wasn't internet noise. This wasn't trolls. This was family. People who had once defended her now asking for proof she never thought she'd need to give. Allegedly, she broke down immediately, insisting the tape was being taken out of context, that old connections don't mean ongoing betrayal. But the damage was already done. When whispers of the DNA demand leaked, the internet lost its mind. Hashtags erupted. Some people accused Charlie's parents of cruelty. Others said it was the only logical step. Fan accounts split overnight. One side argued that leaked audio proves nothing. The other said when lies stack up, verification becomes necessary. Every reaction poured gasoline on the fire. Then came the confrontation that no one expected to leak. According to a source who claims to have seen it, Charlie and Erika allegedly had a private argument that escalated into shouting. Not about the tape. About honesty. About why certain names were never mentioned. About why he had to hear pieces of her past from other people. The source claims Erika accused Charlie of letting his parents poison him. Charlie allegedly shot back that she poisoned the truth first. As the argument unfolded, social media continued its frenzy. A clip from an old interview went viral where Erika said, "I don't believe in bringing baggage into marriage." That line, once praised, was now being mocked mercilessly. Meme pages had a field day. Commentary channels rushed to cover the fallout. Everyone had an opinion, and none of them were quiet. Insiders say Charlie withdrew completely after that confrontation. No posts. No appearances. No statements. That silence became its own scandal. Fans speculated he was devastated. Critics claimed he was complicit. Meanwhile, Erika's camp allegedly scrambled, reaching out to friendly outlets, attempting to reframe the narrative before it hardened beyond repair. But then another twist hit. Someone claiming to be close to the ex mentioned in the tape posted cryptically that the truth doesn't end with one recording. That single sentence reignited everything. People began speculating about additional audio, messages, Proof that, by the time the second wave hit, the story had already mutated into something far more dangerous than a cheating rumor. This wasn't about morality anymore. It was about credibility, control, and who had been curating the truth from the very beginning. Insiders say the pressure inside Charlie's inner circle reached a breaking point when a new batch of alleged messages began circulating quietly, not on public timelines, but in private group chats among donors, staffers, and longtime allies. These weren't screenshots posted for clout. They were being passed hand to hand like contraband. According to people who claimed to have seen them, the messages appeared to show Erika maintaining an emotional connection with her ex long after she told Charlie that chapter was closed. Nothing explicit. Nothing undeniable. Just familiarity. Check-ins. Shared jokes that only make sense between people with history. The kind of communication that raises red flags not because of what's said, but because of what it implies. Once those messages started lining up with the leaked tape, the narrative hardened. Charlie's parents allegedly saw the messages next. That's when the tone changed completely. Sources say the conversation stopped being emotional and became procedural. Lawyers were consulted. Family advisors looped in. This wasn't about public embarrassment. This was about risk. Reputational risk. Familial risk. And, most critically, the well-being of children who were now at the center of a storm they didn't ask for. Erika, according to insiders, felt the walls closing in. She reportedly insisted the messages were being misread, that maintaining cordial contact with an ex didn't equal betrayal. But the problem wasn't just the contact. It was the contradiction. For years, she had built a public identity around separation from that past. Now that past was refusing to stay buried, and every new detail made the gap between image and reality harder to ignore. As whispers grew louder, social media erupted into full-scale chaos. Twitter became a battlefield of timelines and counter-timelines. One thread claimed to map Erika's movements across cities, matching alleged sightings with political events and conferences. Another debunked it point by point, accusing critics of conspiracy building. TikTok creators went live for hours, analyzing body language from old videos, comparing voices in the leaked tape to archived interviews. The internet became judge, jury, and detective all at once. Then came the celebrity reactions, subtle but combustible. A conservative influencer liked a post calling the situation deeply unsettling, then unliked it. A political commentator tweeted about truth always surfacing without naming names. Screenshots flew. Interpretations multiplied. Each vague gesture added fuel to the fire, because silence from people who usually speak loudly was suddenly being read as confirmation. Behind closed doors, insiders say Charlie was unraveling. Not publicly, but internally. He allegedly revisited old conversations, moments that once felt insignificant now screaming for attention. Why did certain stories change? Why did some dates feel rushed? Why did introductions feel orchestrated? The more he pulled at the thread, the more the fabric of his marriage seemed to fray in his hands. The DNA test demand, once a private line in the sand, reportedly became a non-negotiable ultimatum during this period. Sources claim Charlie's parents framed it as protection, not accusation. They allegedly told Erika that if everything was as she said, the test would silence the noise and close the chapter. But to Erika, according to people close to her, the demand felt like an indictment. An assumption of guilt disguised as concern. That's when the meltdowns allegedly began. One insider claims Erika broke down during a family meeting, accusing everyone of conspiring against her, of letting internet speculation poison real relationships. She reportedly insisted she was being punished for a past she had already paid for. But those present, according to the same source, didn't back down. Trust had eroded too far. As tensions escalated, a new rumor leaked that sent the internet into overdrive. Someone claimed the X at the center of the tape had been contacted by third parties asking for more material. Messages. Photos. Proof. Whether he complied or not remains unverified, but the idea that more could exist was enough to keep everyone on edge. Bloggers began hinting they were sitting on something. None published. The suspense became its own currency. Charlie's silence during this phase became deafening. No statements. No appearances. Insiders say he deliberately stepped back, refusing to feed the chaos. But that withdrawal only intensified speculation. Fans wondered if he was protecting himself, his parents, or the truth. Critics accused him of letting others fight his battles. Every interpretation coexisted, none cancelling the other out. Meanwhile, Erika's public image began to shift in real time. Old interviews resurfaced, where she spoke about honesty, purity, and intention. Lines once applauded were now clipped and replayed with sarcastic captions. Meme pages had a field day. But beneath the mockery, there was a darker undercurrent. People weren't just laughing. They were reassessing. Rewriting their understanding of who she was and how she got here. Insiders claim the final straw came when a trusted family friend allegedly told Charlie's parents that the inconsistencies reminded them of someone hiding more than they're admitting. That comment reportedly sealed the decision. The DNA test would move forward, regardless of backlash. Not as a spectacle, but as a safeguard. Word of that decision leaked late one night, and the internet combusted again. Some called it heartless. Others called it overdue. Advocacy accounts warned against turning private family matters into public trials. Yet the story refused to slow down. It had become too entangled with power, politics, and identity to be contained. As the night wore on, one final development pushed the tension to an unbearable level. An anonymous account posted that the DNA test wasn't the only thing being discussed behind closed doors. They claimed legal options were on the table. Custody frameworks. Protective measures. Lines being drawn not for optics, but for control of the future. The post was deleted within minutes. Screenshots lived forever. If that claim is even partially true, then this saga has crossed into territory no PR team can manage. It's no longer about defending reputations. It's about consequences that can't be spun away. And as the internet tried to catch its breath, one thing became painfully clear. Whatever happens next won't be handled quietly. Because once families stop trusting words and start demanding proof, there's no going back. And according to insiders watching this unfold, the next moment won't be a leak. It will be a result. The final phase didn't arrive with noise. It arrived with dread. The kind that creeps in when everyone realizes the next move isn't about narratives anymore, it's about consequences. By the time whispers of results started floating through private circles, the tone across social media shifted from speculation to fear. Not excitement. Fear. Because once proof enters the room, there's no room left for interpretation. According to insiders, the atmosphere inside Charlie's family became unbearably tense as the process moved forward. No leaks. No dramatic posts. Just silence so thick it felt intentional. People close to the situation say Erika stopped responding to anyone outside her immediate circle. Friends were allegedly told not to speak. Phones went unanswered. Group chats went dark. That kind of quiet doesn't happen unless something irreversible is unfolding behind the scenes. Then, late one night, a new leak surfaced that changed everything again. Not evidence. Reaction. An alleged voicemail from someone close to the family, saying, "This is big." Then came the celebrity reactions, subtle but devastating. A prominent figure, who had once praised Erika's character, removed an old post featuring her. No explanation. Another personality tweeted about truth costing more than lies, then locked their account. Screenshots spread like wildfire. The message was clear: people in the know were distancing themselves before the fallout hit. Behind closed doors, insiders claim Charlie was unraveling in a different way than anyone expected. Not angry. Not explosive. Hollow. One source said he kept replaying early memories, wondering which moments were real and which were performances. That kind of doubt doesn't fade. It corrodes. And it reportedly left him questioning not just his marriage, but his judgment, his instincts, his entire foundation. Erika, on the other hand, was allegedly fighting for control of the narrative one last time. Sources claim she considered going public preemptively, telling her side before anything could be finalized. Draft statements were allegedly written, deleted, rewritten. Some leaned defensive. Others leaned emotional. None felt safe. Because once you speak, you lock yourself into a version of events that evidence can either support or destroy. Then, just when the tension couldn't stretch any further, an anonymous post dropped that sent chills through everyone watching. It claimed that regardless of the outcome, legal strategies were already being prepared. Not lawsuits. Safeguards. Structures. Moves designed to limit exposure and protect what could still be protected. The post vanished within minutes, but by then it was too late. The idea was out there. Fans began to realize something terrifying. Even if the results confirmed everything Erika claimed, the damage was already done. Doubt doesn't disappear with proof. It lingers. And if the results didn't confirm it, then this story wouldn't just implode. It would explode outward, pulling families, institutions, and reputations into the blast radius. Late that night, another development surfaced that made people physically uneasy. A journalist tweeted that they had verified the existence of documents related to the situation, but were choosing not to pursue the story, out of respect for minors involved. That single sentence hit harder than any leak. If journalists were backing off, the material had crossed into territory too heavy to monetize. At the same time, Erika's name began disappearing from certain spaces. Invitations quietly rescinded. Appearances postponed. Collaborations scrubbed. No announcements. Just absence. In the world she occupied, disappearance spoke louder than condemnation. As hours turned into days, the internet sat in a state of suspended animation. Everyone knew something had happened. No one knew what. That waiting became unbearable. People refreshed feeds compulsively, afraid they'd miss the moment everything changed. Because once the truth lands, there's no preparing for it. There's only reacting. And then, just before dawn, one final rumor rippled through the chaos. A claim that the results had been delivered. Not leaked. Not shared. Delivered. To the family. To lawyers. To the people whose lives would be permanently altered by what was inside that envelope. No confirmation followed. No denial. Just silence. And that silence is where this story pauses, not ends. Because whether those results bring closure or catastrophe, the fallout is inevitable. Relationships have already been fractured. Trust has already been shattered. And once questions this big are asked, answers don't heal everything they touch. The only thing everyone agrees on is this: when the truth finally becomes public, nothing about this story will ever look the same again. If you're still here, understand this: you're not just watching gossip anymore. You're witnessing a story that is still breathing, still shifting, still one leak away from rewriting everything people thought they knew. Moments like this don't pause.